We have our own Phantom. All right. Well, Ted Keegan, otherwise known as the Phantom, at least for the next few weeks.
That's right.
Here in Dallas. I think people always are curious as to what the person beneath the mask or underneath the mask looks like. So now, take a good look, everybody.
The spell is broken.
Yes. Do people, though, ever recognize you?
That's the interesting thing about doing this specific role. Normally people don't recognize you at all. You can walk right out of the stage door and walk over to your car and drive away, and people are still standing there waiting for the Phantom to come out. So it's kind of funny sometimes when I leave the theater and there are people that are standing outside and you know they're waiting for someone, so I just kind of ask if they're waiting for anyone special. And very often they're waiting for the Phantom. And they don't believe it when it's me. So.
They said, no, I don't want your autograph.
Exactly. I'm waiting for Ted Keegan.
You played this on Broadway.
Yes.
And now you're doing the national tour.
Yes.
How does the national tour differ in any way from the Broadway production?
The Broadway production. There aren't an awful lot of differences. It's the same skeleton. There are a few things that you're able to do in New York simply because it stays there. It stays in one theater. There are trapdoors and there are candelabras that come up through the floor, whereas with our production they come on from the side. But other than that, it's almost identical to the New York company.
I must tell you, Ted, that I think this is as fine a production as anybody has ever seen of The Phantom.
Well, I'm very proud to be a part of it. I think we have a great company. It's a great group of people, very, very talented people.
You are all over the place. I mean, all over the stage, on top of the stage. You know, if you had dropped out of the ceiling into my lap, it wouldn't have surprised me. But really, it's a rigorous show, isn't it?
It is a rigorous show. I'm climbing ladders. I'm being moved into different spaces and appearing and disappearing. It's exhausting. By the time we get to the end of the show, I'm ready to sit down for a little while.
Have you ever missed getting at the right place at the right time?
Where's wood? I think I'm sitting on a wooden chair. I have not at this point. Sometimes things happen. There are so many technical aspects to the show. Something hasn't worked properly, and we've been delayed a little bit in getting into position in time, but nothing drastic for me, thank goodness.
Has the chandelier ever failed to work?
Yes, it has. That has happened a couple of times, and the reason it has failed to work is safety. They had trouble with it going up, and so they didn't want to chance having it come down. There are a couple things like that have happened.
So, in other words, it didn't come down and sort of swoop out from the stage.
Right.
People wait for that moment. At least I always wait for it. And then when it happens, it's still like,
oh, it's magical. There's no doubt. It's so magical. One of my favorite parts of the show actually is at the very beginning when you're at the auction, and all of a sudden you start taking the journey back into the previous time. You're taken back in time, and everything just disappearing and appearing on stage, and it's a wonderful, wonderful, exciting time.
One of my favorite props besides the chandelier is the elephant.
Isn't that wonderful?
And
I know, we travel
guy.
with an elephant, or most of an elephant.
How many trucks does it take?
I believe, I think we have, 20 trucks, or is it 40 trucks? It's 27 trucks. There we go.
Wow, I'll ask you that again. How many trucks does it take?
It takes 27 trucks to take all of our pieces from city to city.
You must be a caravan that reaches from Chicago to Pennsylvania.
It's one of the largest shows as far as traveling companies are concerned. So.
Okay. Another one of the effects that I love is when the Phantom's face is in the mirror, and then he draws Christine in, That's
No.
now that's magic. That's
It's
stage
wonderful.
magic.
It is that, and that's one of the things about this show. I think that there really is something for everyone in this show. You can bring your husband along, and he's going to enjoy it. He may not tell you that he's enjoying it, but there are things in there, technical aspects, pyrotechnics, and magic tricks that exist throughout the show that I think make it accessible to all ages.
Oh yes, kids love it. I was
They
sitting
really
with
seem
some
to.
children, and they loved it. They just loved it. What about the boat? Does it ever get stuck?
Well, the boat, it's only gotten stuck on me once, but certainly it's another technical aspect, and I don't really have an awful lot of control over what the boat is doing. I just kind of go where it takes me, but I have heard horror stories of the boat taking its own little journey at times. But I haven't had that experience myself.
Boat just goes into the wings and doesn't come back.
Exactly. They decide to go somewhere else.
The Phantom really did disappear. The mask, of course, is such an important prop in
Yes.
in the Phantom of the Opera. What is it made of?
It's interesting that the mask itself is, first of all, it starts with a complete facial casting. They do a casting of your face, put prosthetic pieces on that, and then they mold the mask to that. It's plastics and molding materials, and then there are wires that go throughout it to be able to hold it onto your face.
Now, when Christine rips it off, is that a different mask?
No, it's
How
the
does
same
she
mask.
rip it off?
Well, she's able to get underneath the bottom of the mask and just pulls it. It's a tough enough material that won't break it, that won't crack it.
I'm envisioning that she would give it a yank and your ears would come off or something.
We've practiced that quite a bit.
Okay. I've always wondered, is there a live organ or is the organ always recorded?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. The organ actually is coming from the pit. The organ is coming from the pit. Because to be able to have a live organ on stage, it technically would be too difficult.
There would not be
So-
room for the organ and the elephant.
Exactly. Exactly.
The sound this time I thought was just extraordinary, the surround sound.
Wonderful.
Now, did it always have surround sound?
Specific areas of the show had it. What has happened actually is as the show has progressed through this show has been on the road for 8 years at this point. Through those 8 years, they have always taken wonderful care of the show. And if something new came along that they felt would help the show, they've invested in that. And so they have actually just invested recently in creating a new sound system. So it's only going to get better.
Ted, have you counted how many performances you've given as the Phantom?
I lost count. I know I can find out again. But when I left the New York company, I had performed the show over 200 times in New York. And I came out here and performed last summer for 3 months. And now I have been with this company since the 1st of March. So we're over 500 at this point, I would say.
Let's say 10, 15 years from now, you will go on to other things, of course. But when you look back on your Phantom years, what will you remember and what will be meaningful to you?
It's such a wonderful experience. I've met so many wonderful people, worked with so many wonderful people. And this role is like no other role. no matter where you go throughout the country, throughout the world at this point, someone will know this show. You say you're with Phantom of the Opera, they will know what show you're talking about. It's wonderful to be a part of something like that, and to be able to share this music that so many people know. It's a very warm feeling. It's been a great experience, continues to be a great experience, and it's one of the best times I've ever had.
Will it be difficult, though, when you decide to end your Phantom run? Will it be difficult to find a show that will be as satisfying to you?
Another good question. You know, in this business, so many things that you do, you're constantly changing. You're going from one place to another, doing all sorts of different shows. And that's one of the blessings of the business. It's wonderful to do new things. And I think my experience to this point has been whatever I'm doing at that point is the most wonderful experience I've ever had. You know, you have to make whatever you're doing as much fun as possible and as enjoyable as possible. And I know that there are other things that are out there that will give me just as much joy as this has. But I do love doing this.
Doesn't Andrew Lloyd Webber have a new show in London? Or he's going to have a new show?
There's been talk of Phantom 2, but I don't know where that stands at this point. There was Whistle Down the Wind, which I don't believe is still running in London. But I know that he has a few things up his sleeve.
What about the movie? Because they've talked about the Phantom of the Opera
Haven't they?
as a movie, yes.
Yes. I'm not sure where that stands either. I know that they have been talking to Antonio Banderas quite a bit, hoping that he would want to do the movie. But, you know, Hollywood is worse than Broadway as far as until it's on that dotted line, it doesn't happen. So.
Well, and I should think as long as the Phantom of the Opera is doing so well in its stage version, why bring out the movie and go into competition?
Exactly. Yeah. I think that there are many years left for this show to travel around the country and to stay on Broadway.
And people love for it to come back every few years. They love to keep seeing it. It'll be like an opera, an operetta.
I think I agree. I agree with that completely. And what's wonderful is parents who possibly saw this show when they were dating are now bringing their children to see this show. You know, Mom and Dad, we went to see this show when we were dating, and we want to share it with you. It's kind of interesting.
Tell me about your audition for this role. What did you do and who was there?
My audition for this role. My initial audition, I went through about 4 or 5 auditions. My initial audition, actually, I just had the musical supervisor who was there. And she brought me in, and I had a couple sessions with her and with the musical director and with the man who was the supervisor for all of the companies. And they put me through all the tests, singing through everything and working things over and over and over again. My final audition actually ended up being in Hal Prince's office. Which was pretty exciting. He wasn't able to come to any of the auditions I had had before, and so they set one up in his office. So I walked into Hal Prince's office and looked around and saw Tony Awards and awards everywhere from every place and everything. And then he walked into the office and was as lovely as could be. We just did a couple quick little things, and he welcomed me to the family. So it's an exciting business.
Great story. One last thing. Tell me about this CD now. Is it out now?
My CD?
Yes, your CD.
Yes. Actually, I'm hoping to be able to sell it right at the theater. I'm talking with a couple of people about that right now. But I also have it available on my website, which is www.tedkeegan.com. But it's mostly musical theater pieces. Pieces that are mainstays, like On the Street Where You Live, and of course Music of the Night. But there are also some wonderful pieces from shows that didn't quite make it on Broadway, but had absolutely beautiful music in them. And so I pulled out some of those too.
Well, we'll look forward to getting that and hearing that.
Thank you.
And Ted, thank you so much for your time, and just continue to have a wonderful time here in Dallas.
Thank you. A pleasure to meet you.
I really did. The family, the Buckley family, I've been friends with them forever. I watched Betty grow up, you know. And her mother comes with me to the musicals.
Oh, wonderful.
And and her name also is Betty. It's Betty Lynn, the actress, and Betty Bobb, the mother. And but anyway, her. Oh, okay. Oh, you might put that out there.
Okay.
So I said to Betty Bobb, I said, that is as fine a production as anybody could ever hope to see. I was totally thrilled with it.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yes,
I'm so glad.
I had no problems with any of it.
Great.
And everything worked, and the sound was wonderful. Sometimes that hall, the music hall, in certain areas, people will complain about, you know, the sound. But the sound was wonderful.
Terrific. Yeah, they weren't actually too excited about coming into this space, the sound people.
Really?
But with this new system, and when they set everything up, they were very pleased with
Oh,
how
they
it sounded.
should be, because please, if you have
I certainly
any
will.
Comments with them. Yeah.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
Well, are they going to turn that off or not? No, we have to have it off. Joanne? Yeah. Fred, is this okay now? Okay. And just keep a two-shot all the way, and I'll try to get through this as quickly as possible. Okay. Ted, you played this on Broadway. How does the road show differ from okay, again. Ted, you played this on Broadway. How does the National Touring Company differ from the Broadway version?
Well, the Broadway production is actually pretty much the same as the National Touring.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay. It's okay. Somebody's in our background. Okay. This is such a technical show. Has anything ever gone wrong?
Well, yeah. Well, things certainly do go wrong. I haven't really experienced anything myself, but I know horror stories about the boat. And
Okay, that's fine. All right. Has the boat ever failed to work for you?
only once the boat has failed to work for me, and actually we had to leave it on stage and exit, and kind of got caught in
Okay.
the candles.
You are all over the stage, on top of the stage. If you had dropped in my lap, I wouldn't have been surprised. It's a very rigorous show.
Yes, it is. It is. He's all over the place. He's climbing ladders. He's appearing here and there and disappearing.
How many trucks does it take to travel all of this stuff?
I now know this answer. It's 27 trucks.
Wow.
It is.
Wow.
It's incredible.
Okay, let me see. Pardon? I'm sorry, oh, yes, okay. He helps me. He's a photographer who really listens. Has the chandelier ever failed to work?
Well, actually, a couple times it has. Safety issues.
Yeah.
But that was the only reason.
Yeah, okay. Let me see what else I got here. Oh, okay. How does the mask work? What is it made of?
The mask is made of plastic materials that are a polymer that is put together and is created over.
Okay. When Christine rips the mask off, how does that happen? Let me say that again. Christine has to rip the mask off. Is that a different mask?
No, it's the same mask, but she's able to get up underneath it and pull it off.
Let's see.
Is Bushnell
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay. Years from now, when you've gone on to play other things, how will you look back on your years with the Phantom of the Opera?
Phantom. It's a wonderful experience. I will always remember these
Okay. There was another question when you said good question. What was that? Fred, do you think of what was your audition like?
I went through quite a few auditions, but my final audition was in Hal Prince's office, which was a great experience.
Okay. You have your own CD now.
Yes, I do. I've just released it, and I'm hoping to be able to sell it here as well as on my website.
Okay. I wish I could think of that other question. In the scene where the Phantom's face is in a mirror and then he draws Christine into the mirror, that's extraordinary.
It's wonderful. It's part of the magic of this show. There's magic, there's pyrotechnics, there's something for everyone.
Are you ever recognized?
Not very often, no. No one recognizes the Phantom.
Okay. I guess that'll get it because that other stuff, I can work around that. I don't have to have a question for each one, but that was it. Okay. I've always wondered, is the organ a live organ or is it a recorded organ music?
Well, actually, it's not recorded, but it's